Now, with Brian Wilson live in Charlotte, this is Common Sense coverage of the Democratic National Convention with Brian and Brian, sponsored by the Media Research Center. 105.9 FM and AM 630. WMAL.
Good morning, everybody. Brian Wilson from Charlotte. Brian Neiman back at the house in D.C. We are joined here on Radio Row, Brian, by a couple of familiar faces. Joe Trippi, a noted Democratic strategist, is here. He's also seen him on the Fox News channel. And, of course, all sitting across from me is our good friend, Mary Katharine Ham. Good to have you both on the show.
Good morning.
All right, so, Joe, let's start with you a little bit about Clinton's speech last night. Did he hit the right notes? And most importantly, it seemed like there are two goals here. Motivate the base, which I think he did, and also try to reach those yet undecided voters. How did he do?
I thought, it was a long speech, but I thought he did pretty well. I mean, mostly because he just has the credibility to do it. He's the last president anybody remembers where they felt like the economy was booming and jobs were being created and all the things that people have angst about right now. And he was able to, be sort of the arbiter between the Bush policies that came after him and what Barack Obama did. And he did it very well because he was gracious to both President Bush's and presidents, and then at the same time just pretty much eviscerated the don't double down on trickle down, pointing out that they had both quadrupled the deficit with Bush #1 and doubled it under Bush 2, and I think made the case for Obama really defending against Romney, I think.
Brian?
Well, Joe, I want to know, because if you look at the TV ratings, Fox did very well during the Republican National Convention. MSNBC did very well the night before. So it appears that people are watching with their own political eyes. And I wonder, who are these undecideds? Have you ever met one? Where do you find them? And, what are the campaigns doing to convince them? And do these speeches do anything to actually change their minds?
No, Brian, you're absolutely right. First of all, there are no undecideds. The Obama campaign, when I've talked to them, believe that there are 90,000 undecided voters in the combined swing states. I mean, that are actually up for grabs. So you're talking about two campaigns spending upwards of $1 billion each
to get 90,000 votes.
To fight over 90,000 votes, because 5,000 votes in Ohio may decide it. We're going to have, I think, a very close election that's reminiscent of the 2000 election, where Bush won Florida by 500 votes. It's going to be tough.
So you're talking the I-4 corridor in Florida. Yeah. You're talking about Northern Virginia, the battleground there,
Absolutely.
And where in Ohio?
Oh, well, in Ohio, they're sort of scattered. I mean, it's really could get decided by 10,000 votes throughout the state.
I mean, bottom line, Joe, after this is over, obviously we haven't seen Obama yet. Do we get a bump out of this convention, or are the days of bumps done because there's no one to earn?
There's no one. That's why there wasn't a big bump for Romney. It wasn't whether the convention was going out. There's no one out there to move. Both campaigns are now in literally the base driving, energizing the base, making sure they get out to vote. And these conventions are set up to try to reach whatever undecideds are watching, but I think most people are watching right now to cheerlead their guy, which, by the way, could happen in debates too. We could go into these debates thinking they're going to be big deals. Undecideds are going to make up their minds finally, and what we're going to find out is the only people watching are people who want to cheer on Romney and people who want to cheer on Obama, and nothing really changes unless there's a big gaffe.
All right, so we've been talking a lot this morning about the moment as they opened the convention where they had to change the platform, and it happened. Let's forget about what the platform issue was. It happened in a rather undemocratic way. You'd have to agree with that.
Well, yeah, except, a parliamentarian would have just immediately banged the gavel on the first time and said, hey, the ayes have it.
Exactly.
This is what happens when you have someone who hasn't run a convention before actually chaired something like this, who's a politician, a good one, who doesn't want to offend the room. Hey, let's do that again. Hey, let's do that again. And you
got prompted. Look, they're going to say what they're going to say. You just have to rule.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If he had ruled the first time, it wouldn't have been as awkward as it was. But the whole thing was self-inflicted anyway. I mean, how how that platform got out without somebody. I'm convinced no one knew, and no one, I mean, from on high had taken the time to look at it and realize that that things had been taken out.
Mary Katharine, is that something that people will have a lot of fun with on the Republican side?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have some fun with it. The difference between, because this kind of thing happens at conventions frequently, the rulings are not actually very often Democratic, because everything's supposed to go smoothly, so we have to pretend like we're all agreeing,
right?
Which I wish we didn't have to do. That happened at the Republicans convention too with this Ron Paul stuff. The difference is this has a little more legs in the mainstream because it's about Israel, it's about God, it's about Jerusalem, and people can sort of relate to that. The Ron Paul and the rule changes within the RNC didn't have as much translation to normal people.
And they dramatic, awkward video of it too.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Ron Paul skirmish in Tampa may actually have larger overreaching impact in future conventions and how nominees are picked, but it didn't get much of a media play, again, because it wasn't something that everybody could grab onto really easily and understand.
So what we're going to take away from these conventions is the Democrats will point to Clint Eastwood and that night, and Republicans will point to this, God Jerusalem voice vote that was a debacle, and that's what we're going to get out of these conventions. I ask seriously whether or not we need conventions anymore, since they're essentially now just a marketing campaign for both parties.
No, look, these things are obsolete. Let's face it. I mean, they're now choreographed shows. No vote matters. I mean, I was at probably the last convention, 1980, where there were really votes on the floor, Carter versus Kennedy,
right,
that actually affected. There was a chance that the nomination could fall out of Carter's hands. It didn't. But I mean, votes mattered, issues mattered. There would have been a knockdown, drag out on the God Jerusalem thing if it was a real vote and it was a real issue.
All right. So the other thing that's burbling this morning is the move from the Bank of America Stadium, which holds, I think, 74,000 people, back to this arena where we are now, which holds about 20,000 people. The question is, did they do it because there was a 40% chance of rain when they said all week long, rain or shine? Or did they do it because they were having trouble filling the arena?
I think it was the rain. Look, these guys are good, and they have plenty of buses coming from. They've known for a number of years now this was going to happen. I think they had that all laid out. But I do think if you've been walking around this convention, every couple of hours, a good ton of water comes dumping out of the sky on you.
It does rain here.
A lot. And I think they just got realistic about it and thought that was the best. Otherwise, you're going to have a massive problem if it just starts dumping rain today.
And in fairness, we say, well, if it was been a sporting event, they would have gone ahead and gone forward and just see what happens. But you can't do that in this situation because you couldn't move it back here in like 2 hours' notice.
Right. And then you're going to have if it dumps for 2 hours today, we're all inside and they're speaking, that's one thing. But if it's out there and 70,000 people are standing in the rain and the wind's blowing, I mean, what the symbolic nature of that would be very, very costly, regardless of how nature doing its thing is not.
But again, I don't know why they didn't make that call day one.
I agree with that. I think the sooner they actually they dodged a big bullet by doing it as late as they did yesterday, because if they'd done this today, I think they'd already have 30,000 people here, even if they couldn't fill it up. And then they'd have all kinds of angry stuff.
The worst of all worlds.
Yeah. Joe Trippi, Mary Katharine Ham, Brian Wilson, all live in Charlotte. I'm back here in D.C. 817 on WMAL. Brian Neiman here in D.C. Brian Wilson down in Charlotte. Mary Katharine Ham is there as well.
Yep. Joe Trippi still with us.
Joe Trippi still with us as well. So, all right. Has the needle moved at all then in the last couple of weeks, Joe? Or are we still the same as we were before?
That's the question. Nothing seems to be moving the needle, Joe.
No, I don't think. Look, I think both parties have done a good job of revving their bases up and energizing them as best they can, using the conventions to do that. But I doubt very much. I mean, I think Ian Romney there's a better chance that Romney gets a little bit of a move because people didn't know that much about them. The Washington Post poll had shown that that 30% of the public going into the convention didn't know enough about him to really make a decision. So I think those gaps got filled a little bit, but not as much.
All right. So since you're here and you're the big political expert, I want you. We always ask this question. It's a big fight between Neiman and I about how this election is going to play out. I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. I think this is a referendum on Barack Obama. People decided early on whether they like Barack Obama, and those who like him, they said they were going to vote for him again, and those who didn't, they eventually landed in the Romney camp. There aren't many undecideds left. And so I think this comes down to one of those very, very close elections where you could actually have one candidate winning the popular vote and one candidate winning the electoral vote. I think it's going to be very close. Neiman has a different view. Go ahead, Neiman.
Well, I just think that there's this groundswell that's out there. It's a continuation from 2010 when the president was not on the ballot. I understand that, but he was still very popular in 2010, and the Republicans came in a huge wave. I think that still continues out there. I know the polls are tight. I get the sense that I throw in the Chick-fil-A thing. I throw in the fact that you had the referendums in California where people said, you know what, we can't continue to spend like this. Scott Walker still stays in Wisconsin. Things are still working there. I just get a sense that it's going to be the reverse of 2008, and it will be a comfortable win for Mitt Romney, and I know I'm in the minority on that, and it's more of a gut feeling than anything else.
What do you think?
I think that the Electoral College and the way those states lay out really benefits Barack Obama, and Romney has been in a very difficult situation from the get-go.
You're right.
He has to win Virginia to have any shot. If he loses Virginia, it's really very difficult to get there. And a gentleman by the name of Virgil Goode is now on the ballot, conservative, who's going to peel votes away. In Virginia, going to peel votes away from Romney. I think he could be the Ralph Nader, a la 2000, right. Between Al Gore and George Bush that caused the problem or helped cause the problem down in Florida that year. And so I think what's likely to happen, the first thing will be Ohio. I actually believe Obama's going to win Ohio if that happens, and Virgil Goode has an impact on Virginia. Gets very, very tough. I think this could actually end up being a situation where Romney may eke out a popular vote victory and lose the electoral vote actually by like 300. I mean, with Obama getting like 300 electoral votes.
And then all of the exact same people who asked for the Electoral College to be abolished before, I'm sure will be on board with that again.
You're not a big fan of the Electoral College,
No, I'm fine with it. I just think it's funny. If that happens, the camps will completely reverse.
Switch. Exactly switch. You're right.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a cycle quite like this one, though? I can't remember one quite like this, where people locked in so very early in a big way.
No, I mean, well, first of all, it's been going on from almost the day Obama got elected. Everybody got in their corners and started. You had Mitch McConnell come out and say, "Look, my job's to make him a one-term president," and everybody got in their corners, and that's one of the reasons why I don't think there's a whole lot of undecided out there. Maybe a little around the margins. Romney's going to benefit from that. Whatever is along the margins, they tend to always vote against the incumbent at the end here. But the fact is, if you got a 48-47 race and 5% undecided, and they split 4-1 to Romney, 80% of them go to Romney. He would, in a poll, he would be at 51. Obama would be at 49. Now, some people would say, well, that means he wins. It's a poll. I mean, it's a dead heat, So even under the best circumstances, with him getting 80% of the undecideds, when I calculate it, we have a dead heat on our hands.
This is going to be it's going to be 2000 all over.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yep.
All right, everybody says it's a nail biter but me, but I also said Steven Strasburg would pitch in the World Series later this year, and I don't know if that's going to go very well.
That's not going to happen.
Joe Trippi, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Mary Katharine, we'll talk to you. Stick around. I got to get your doom meter where you are at that, and have you been to any Bojangles in North Carolina? I want to talk about your native
I haven't yet, but we'll talk about it.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. And Wilson's interview with Marion Barry that you don't want to miss, all coming up on the show. It's 8:22 on WMAL.